So Art was struggling with his scoring because he couldn't figure out how to control distance around the green and get up and down as often as he'd liked. Check out what I told him in our Zoom lesson.
That's it.
Yep, perfect. So we're going to have you hit 3 chips using the restriction point. One is going to be just stock zero tilt, neutral tilt.
Okay.
The next is going to be positive tilt. The next is going to be negative tilt. And we should still see, regardless of the tilt, that the ball should end up in the same spot. Negative tilt will spin up a little bit more. Beautiful. Good. Where positive tilt should go a little bit higher.
Which it did.
Yep. Still similar distance, right?
Maybe 10 inches longer.
Okay.
And
Happy
negative
problems.
tilt.
Yep.
Lower.
And that's going to
And
spin up a
same-
little bit more.
Same
Okay.
spot.
So I want you to go ahead and pace that off for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
13.
Okay, perfect. So anytime you have a chip that's inside of 12 to 13 paces, we're grabbing lob wedge.
Okay.
So of course from there you can quiet up the amplitude. So if you wanted to hit this one a little bit shorter, we're going to bring it back a little bit less. But we know what our maximum restriction point is. So what I want you to do from here is we're going to have you grab your 55 or 56 degree wedge. We're going to have you aim just a little bit further left. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to hit 3 wedges, neutral, positive tilt, negative tilt.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I know what you're doing. Makes perfect sense.
Because again, you know the rounds of golf where you go ahead and you mishit a chip and somehow it ends itself up next to the hole.
All right, that was.
That might have been that was a little bit more of a pitch because the lower body rotating the way through.
We'll recalibrate here.
Yeah, just the scapula. Beautiful. You know when you're playing and you hit that chip that even if you miss it still ends up next to the hole?
Right.
That's because you grabbed the right wedge for the situation.
Yeah, I don't like those.
Okay.
I'm not one that gets excited when I hit a bad shot and it turns out well.
But what I'm saying is if you grab the right wedge, it doesn't matter if the tilt is right or not. Yep.
That was a little long. That was more of a pitch, but I understand. What I need to do is get out here and calibrate it.
For sure. And that would be the point, which is if you have a pin that's in the back, if you're grabbing a lob wedge, you're going to have to add a little extra hit to a chip or make it a pitch. The problem with that, all of a sudden that impacts the spin. If you try to give a wedge a little bit extra, it's going to zip up on you faster. So I'd rather give yourself the baseline number. So for you, it might be, inside of 10 yards, we grab 60. 10 to 20, we're grabbing 56. 20 to 30, we might grab a gap wedge.
And that's where I stop generally. I usually will stop with a 56 and just try to do it. And that's where the issue is. If I've got a longer shot, I'm trying to hit it, and I guess I put more spin on it. Whereas what I ought to be doing is taking
that gap wedge or pitching wedge? Yeah, perfect.
It's a gap wedge.
Good.
And then
because even that, you brought it back a little bit further past that restriction point. So I just want you to isolate the scapula here. Better. I want you to hit 3 more, and then we're going to jump into the bunker a little bit. That might have been a little bit more than the scapula, but either way, good action. The posture looks much better.
Yeah, they're all about the same. Okay.
Good. Okay. Makes sense?
That's oh yeah, it's
okay.
In other words, you rotate with a chip to your restriction point.
Yes.
And you hit it and see how far it goes, and then you got a way to sort of calibrate which club to use.
100%.
And if you go in between them, then you got to make I guess the question, if you're at let's say you're at the max on a 60 degree, but you're in between where you'd hit a 60 and a 56, then it becomes a pitch. You have to have a little more body motion.
Or what you can do is, if I wanted to hit a shot that's in between a 60 and a 56, this is going to be your last test before we jump into the bunker. What produces a certain distance a golf ball goes is a combination of force equals mass times acceleration as well as the loft. And so,
right.
So basically, if you go ahead and you keep the acceleration the same, and the acceleration for each wedge changes because the club gets a little bit longer. And so right. if I had a wedge that was a 56 degree wedge that is now a 60 degree length, that should go in between roughly a 60 and a 56.
Oh, so you just choke up. Okay.
Yep. So I want you to go ahead and grab your 56. I want you to choke up an inch and give me a chip. And it should go somewhere between where your chipping action has gone for your 60 as well as your 56. Same thing, just a restriction point.
Yep.
That might have been a little bit bigger than the restriction point, but you get the idea.
Makes sense? This is right up my alley. I understand. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Which makes more sense than years ago. I took my dad after my mom died. I may have told you this. I took him to the Pell's short game school just so that we could do something together.
Yeah.
And their whole concept was, you need to learn with a 60 degree. It was how far you hit it from here, how far you hit it from there, how far you hit it from here.
I've got a question for you. If I bring it back, and again, not knocking Pell's at all. I think he's done tremendous things for a lot of players. But let's dive into this for 2 seconds before we jump into the bunker.
Well, my point is that's yours. It makes more sense with the restriction point.
Here's the other question. If I'm bringing the club back to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever it happens to go, right? What's the engine? What's the origin of motion? Because if I bring it back to 9 o'clock with my hands, it's going to produce a different result than if it's my lower body, than if it's my scapula, than if it's my shoulder lifting.
Understood.
And that's where, again, I wouldn't say he's wrong, because yes, are we bringing it back, depending on the player, roughly to 9 o'clock based on scapula glide? Yeah, sure, for sure. For some players, it might be a little bit less. Yeah, based on flexibility. So he's right. I mean, we're bringing it back to a certain number on a clock. But what's the center of the clock? Is it the hands or is it the scapula?
It's the scapula.
Yeah, that's what I would like it to be.
It's between the scapulas, actually.
Yep. As opposed to the pivot point of the fulcrum being in the wrists, which is what people.
What I'm thinking about is that my swing, everything rotates around that point right there.
Yes.
So this turns back and that turns through.
Yep. And that's where you keep it.
And it doesn't go up and down. And that's, when you hear them on TV talking about maintaining the spine angle, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to maintain that scapula position, which is the same thing as a spine.
100%. And that's the thing. Whatever the feel is, I'm not going to rain on that as long as you're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's jump in the bunker real quick, and then we're gonna finish up on the full swing. But again, if you mentioned that we're having a slight issue scoring, my first question I would have is, what are we doing to control distance
around the green?
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed watching that private Zoom lesson, as a critical part of the learning process is actually found in watching other students going through the exact same breakthroughs in their game that you're looking to accomplish. And if you want to schedule a one-on-one private Zoom coaching session with me, go and click the link or the button in the description below, and you'll be taken to my personal calendar where you'll be able to easily schedule a one-on-one coaching session with me, where we will literally spend an hour polishing every element of your golf swing. And again, I really do appreciate your interest in who I am and what I do, and cannot wait to be the guy that all your golfing buddies absolutely hate this season. So if you want to schedule your one-on-one coaching session with me, go and click the button below.